full grown. They will grow their entire life until the day they die, even if it is only a quarter of an inch a year. Now what Scott is throwing out is what is known as a crocodilian biscuit. It's a specially formulated biscuit just for crocodilians with all their vitamins and nutrients in it, so it's a nice, easy way to make sure that they're getting the supplements they need on a daily basis. Now on top of that, they get a variety of raw beef, chicken, fish, organ meat, turkey legs, and if that wasn't enough, this is a very natural environment. There are tons of fish and turtles here in this bay. There are birds that nest and roost over there. There's small mammals that sometimes wander a little too close to the water's edge. So if and when they choose to, they are more than welcome to help themselves to a snack when they are hungry. Now with that being said, this is not only an alligator feeding, it's much more than that. This is an alligator training session. Believe it or not, we are actually training our alligators. We have 17 alligators in here. They were all born and raised in zoo facilities. They have no natural fear of humans, and they associate us with food. So we decided that we wanted a nice, safe way to come out here, get up close to them, and feed them without having to worry about putting ourselves in danger or putting them in any danger. So what we decided to do was name them all, and they do all know their names, and they're based on their personalities, physical appearances, and then we started giving them some simple commands, such as coming up onto the shoreline, lifting up themselves, holding open their mouth, holding themselves up, moving backwards. And when they do what they're asked, they get that piece of food as a reward for doing so. Now, if they don't do what we ask, or they are doing a behavior we don't want them to do, we'll ignore it, move on to the next alligator, and come back and try them again later. That way, we can come out here, and we don't have to worry about all 17 alligators rushing up onto the bank to get food. They know that when we're out here, they're not supposed to come up here unless we ask them to. That way, we can also get up close to them, make sure that no one has any injuries, everyone is healthy, acting normally, eating all right, so it makes it much safer for both us and for them as well. Now, as I said, we have 17 of the alligators in here, and chances are you're not going to see all 17 of them. This is not mandatory. They don't have to come up here. They're able to eat throughout the day in here whenever they want to. And then chances are you won't ever see all 17 of them. They'll just come and go as they please. We usually get a good amount of them up here, though. Now, with that being said, what you see Scott doing here, you never want to try to repeat this. Not only is this extremely dangerous, but in the state of Florida, it is against the law to feed or harass an alligator in any way, shape, or form. If you get caught, you can pay a fine up to $5,000, and you can potentially serve jail time. Because not only are you putting yourself in danger, you are putting the person who comes along behind you in danger, and you are in essence signing that alligator's death warrant. Because alligators have a natural fear of humans. They want nothing to do with us. But what happens if someone happens to be out in the Everglades or Alligator Alley or Shark Valley and they see some alligators and they want to feed them, they want to get close to them. Well, as soon as someone feeds an alligator, they start to lose that natural fear. After being fed only one time by an alligator, they will always associate people with food. And the next time they see someone, they will approach them expecting a meal. And they do not know the difference between Scott's hand holding that piece of beef and Scott's hand feeding that piece of beef. And it makes for a very dangerous situation, especially when you take into account that a full-grown alligator can have anywhere between 1,500 to 3,000 pounds of pressure per square inch on those jaws. So you're looking at some bone-shattering power. Definitely not something you want to get mixed up with. And unfortunately, what happens is the alligator becomes what is known as a nuisance animal, and for public safety, has to be taken out of the system, when unfortunately, they're just doing what they think is normal and simply looking for a meal. And really, it's not their fault. And usually you hear stories on the news about someone getting bit or attacked by an alligator, and a lot of people out there think that alligators love to eat people. Well, I can tell you that is definitely not the case. We are not even on an alligator's food menu. We have over 1.3 million alligators here in Florida. they liked to eat people, there would be a lot less of us and a lot more of them in the area. So I can assure you they do not like to eat people. Their primary diet is going to be about 75% fish. The other 25% is going to be substituted with birds, eggs, any little mammals that wander by, and turtles. They really want nothing to do with us. But what happens is someone's out golfing, they hit their ball a little too close to the water hazard, they're out hiking, they're out in the Everglades, and they happen to see an alligator, or they're near the bank or the shoreline, they get too close. That alligator happens to have been fed by someone. It's simply looking for food. And that's when an accident occurs. And usually, the first thing an alligator wants to do as soon as it gets a hold of a person is to spit us out, because they don't even like the way we taste. But what happens is if you get bit by an alligator, you're not just going to sit there calmly and wait for it to let you go. You're going to freak out and try to get away. And that's going to trigger that alligator's fight or flight reaction. And it's going to do whatever it can to protect itself. And that's when people can become severely injured. All just because someone decided they wanted to feed an alligator and get a little bit closer. You know, alligators have been around for millions of years, and we definitely want to keep them around for as long as possible. But back in the 1970s, that almost wasn't the case. They were being heavily hunted, not only for their meat, but for their leather, for that nice smooth underbelly. That leather was being used from everything from purses, hats, shoes, belts, wallets, clothes, and in the name of fashion, they nearly went extinct. Luckily though, in 1973, they were one of the very first animals in Florida to be placed on the endangered species list. And as I said, they have made an overwhelming recovery. There's over 1.3 million alligators right here in Florida. They are still protected, however, and that has to do with their cousin, the American crocodile. Unfortunately, they're not doing as well, and there's less than 2,000 of them left in the wild. I know a lot of people out there are probably like, okay, well, what does the crocodile have to do with the alligators here in Florida being protected? Well, it actually has a lot to do with them, because Florida is the only place in the entire world where you will find crocodiles and alligators living together out in the wild. We do have American crocodiles right here in Florida, and they are heavily protected. We don't even know some of the areas where they can be found. It's such a secret because people don't want anyone else going out after them. So, and since they do look alike, we have these guys protected to help them out a little bit and hopefully get their numbers back up to a more stable position. Now, the primary difference between a crocodile and an alligator is going to be their snout. Alligators, they're going to have that more rounded U-shaped snout. They're also going to be this much darker blackish brown color. Crocodiles are going to be a lighter, more olive green color, but they're also going to have that more narrow V-shaped or pointed snout. Now, since we are here in Florida, and if you ever go across Alligator Alley or ever in the Everglades, you always run the chance of seeing an alligator. And it's always a great opportunity to admire them out there in that setting, maybe take some pictures, but you never want to put yourself or that alligator at risk or in harm's way. So I always recommend staying at least 15 feet away, if not more. If that alligator starts moving towards you, slowly back away. You don't want to turn your back on him, just slowly start backing away and get out of his way. And that way, it'll end safely for you and for that alligator. Alligators really don't spend very much time on land. There's a pretty big myth out there that alligators can run faster than a racehorse. I can tell you right now, if that was true, I would not be standing here. I wouldn't even take that risk. On land, top speed for an alligator, maybe 5 to 6 miles per hour, maybe for 10 feet, a little over if they're on the smaller side. They were not designed to be on land. They are very heavy-bodied animals. They're very low to the ground. And on top of that, their legs are on the outside of their body. They're not underneath them, so they don't move very quickly. They don't move very quickly on land. And usually, there's only a few reasons they're going to be on land, either to sun themselves, to warm up, or if it happens to be a female and you're a little bit too close to her nest, she's going to do whatever it takes to protect those eggs and that nest, even from other alligators. But otherwise, usually they're pretty calm and relaxed and are going to spend most of their time in the water. Now, in the water, they move a lot quicker. They can get up to about 20 miles an hour. And the way they're going to do that is with that regulate their body temperature. And the way they do that is with those bumps that go from the back of their heads down to the end of their tails. Those are known as scutes or osteoderms. They serve two purposes. The first is they act as a type of armor plating and can even stop a bullet up to a certain point. The other purpose is they act as a solar panel. So what they're going to do is in the winter, these guys are going to slow down, they're going to become very lazy, very lethargic. They're usually not going to eat because it's not warm enough out for them to digest anything. So what they'll do is they'll come up here on the beach or they'll go over on the rookery and they're going to sun themselves. They're going to lay out in the sun. That sun is going to warm up those osteoderms. That'll in turn help keep the rest of them warm. Now in the summer, when it's hot, it's humid, they're going to want to stay nice and cool. They don't have the ability to sweat like people do to release that excess heat. So they're going to stay in the water and the shade where it's going to be much cooler. And on occasion, they will come up on the bank and you'll see them with their mouth open. They're not just waiting for a meal to walk in, although on occasion it does happen. They're actually letting that excess heat escape from their bodies so that they don't overheat. But as I said, these guys usually aren't going to be very interested in food in the winter at all. And it's not a big deal. And it's not a big deal if you don't see all of the alligators get a piece of food because they need very little food to survive. They have very slow metabolism and they actually don't need to produce their own body heat since they rely on their environment to do that for them. So they can actually live off of about 200 calories a day. That is about a cup of yogurt. And they can actually go months on end without ever actually eating because throughout the year when there's excess food, they'll store the excess fat in their tails. So in times of drought, when there's not enough food around, or in the winter when it's too cold out for them to eat, they can easily live off the fat in their tails. It helps them out quite a bit. But at this time, if anyone has any questions at all, I'd be more than happy to stick around and answer them. I'm going to go ahead and let Scott finish feeding out the last few alligators here. And definitely check your brochures for the rest of the day. We have another show in Safari Canyon at 3 o'clock, different lineup of animals than we had this morning. We have our Friday expedition cruise, and we have keeper talks going on where you get to see the animals up close, hear about them from the people who take care of them, take pictures, ask questions, all great opportunities. So definitely check those things out. And thank you guys for coming out today. Enjoy the rest of your day here at the Naples Zoo.
Good show.
I saw that.
Look how big it is.
Collar. I want to get a better view.
No. Get down off of there. Crazy?
Unless you want to be gator food, you stay on this side of the fence. Yeah,
Don't climb up. See the signs?